Howdies and salutations, y'all. I am so sorry about that wait there. We ran into a couple of, I'm still not entirely sure what caused it, audio issues where using the exact same audio setup as usual didn't pick up the same way. Not sure about that, but reconnected everything, the little OBS reset, or admittedly paused for dinner real quick, but now we're back. Sometimes that's just the way the timing goes. And back indeed! First off, stinking very exciting news. In fact, I should have just opened with this. Let me scoot my mouse over here so it won't be deafening in the audio capture. I think we're done with Mikola. I'm sorry I didn't stream the last 2 minutes, or 20 minutes, but I just had a moment where I was like, you know, the eclipse is coming up, and I think I even mentioned this last stream. Like, there's an eclipse coming up. I want to make sure we get this out in time for that. Get this posted, just, you know, get it done, too. It seemed like a good omen, good sign for when to do it. And I was messing around with it a little bit, and I was like, you know what, I bet I can get a pretty decent eclipse effect just messing around with this and see what happens, and we did. Very simple brush effect that got the background and this eclipse, and just lining it up a bit with the, even not perfectly, but well enough with the shotel and everything. I think it turned out pretty cool, far better than the detailed background I was on the verge of launching into. Partly because this is definitely one of those projects where you just need to call it and say, hey, it's done, stop going nuts with it. The scope had gotten so out of hand, at least for the style we were doing, and for the detail, and for the just, at that point, just getting in my own head about it. So I'm very happy. Like, the neon-y blue may be a little much, but it does kind of accentuate the contrast with the white, so I like it ultimately. And thinking apparently Tumblr liked it too. I got over 150 notes on this thing, which is not like a brag or a humble brag or anything. I'm just genuinely like, oh, cool. Perhaps some of my art is good. Now, the downside is that that only comes out to about 3 notes per hour I spent on this, because I added up and we spent 53 hours on this. That is over 20 streams. Yeah, that's probably too much. Too much on one project. Months and months and months. But, I mean, we're here. It's done. Stinking look at it. The one I posted, I cropped that funky little edge off. The problem with a project that runs this long is you end up with all sorts of weird little, like, vestigial, weird setup-y bits. Like, the canvas size, while bigger than the original version, was still much smaller than what I would usually go for now, so we ended up with, like, pixelation and such in places I didn't expect it. The canvas shape was based on like an earlier iteration of the of the composition, so like, and it was a weird shape even then. I went for like some, I don't know why I went with this one. The original one we'd ended up way too tall and skinny and it messed with things. And then I didn't want to do square for some reason that I don't know. And so I did this, and that's also weird and bad. But it's here, it's done. I mean, stinking look at it. It's a Mikola. We made a Mikola. Very excited about that. Also excited because it means I can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief and say, hey, why don't we do something that isn't Mikola? For once in my life. Holy cow. This project. Y'all, this project, it was ridiculous. But worth it. I don't regret it, obviously not, but like, oh boy. I was thinking the hair shading actually turned out, accidentally, like this gradient on here turned out solid. Ooh. Hey. Yeah. Oh yeah, getting the bold red at the bottom there. Yes. Okay. Very happy with that. However, what that does mean is that it's time to move on to something new. Oh, and I guess I should clarify. This is just, like, these ruffles, I just took the, I think it was either the texture, I think it was the real G pen, and just made it giant, and, like, just did, like, one little, like, loop with it. And, oh, two loops, because we had layers. And it just, boom. It's semi-transparent. Like, it's on a 37 to mute the color a little. The one I posted, I think I actually went, like, higher, like, maybe closer to 70 or some such. 50, I don't know. The muted one is one thing, but like the bold one is pretty striking too. But yeah, wow. And then I just did like the micron, like perfect circle, Zoopadoo right in the middle. And boom, Ring of Fire Eclipse. Thank heavens. It took a stinking, like, sign from the heavens to get me to finish this. But I appreciate it nonetheless. Glad to have that stroke of inspiration or timing or whatever, what have you. Mostly glad to be free. Woo! Free at last. So, moving on from Mikola, as you may have seen, we are moving into Witchtober. Now, the observant among you may have maybe thinking, wait a second, isn't it the 16th of October already? A little late to start a monthly challenge. And you are right. It is. So rather than try to do 15 makeup days, thus basically committing to almost 2 per day and guarantee burning myself out, we're going to do not that, and we're just going to pick up where we are. We'll see how far we get. But, I don't know. I actually have kind of high hopes for this one. With the one single big caveat, I believe suggested by Galactic last time, or inspired by Galactic's conversation, rather than trying to do new stinking character designs for all of these, because character design is... I don't hate it, but it's not what I'm excited about, and it's still one of those skills that is, like, very early stages for me. It's a struggle. I have to put a lot of time and effort and concentration into it, which isn't a bad thing. It's definitely something I'd like to practice more. But it is a bad thing when you're trying to do a daily drawing challenge, because I'm not at the point where trying to do the dailies will get me good practice. I'm at the point where trying to do the dailies will make me rush. If I get a little better, get a little more experience, then yeah, you know, having a daily challenge to commit to it, yeah, absolutely would be good practice, but I'm not quite there yet. So instead of that, we're gonna do Salt. Because we got a witch. Got a couple of witches, actually. Plenty of OCs to go around for this. Maybe dig out some other ones in the meantime, because we've been doing some designs on those. Or at least I've been, off-stream and such. And of course, Salt and Ollie, and I guess we'd break out Peta. We haven't really finished Peta. I need to work on her name. PETA! People eating tasty animal. I mean, no. But in any case, regardless of the plans for that, we do have plans for today, because today's prompt is Beastmaster or Veterinarian. Your choice. But we're probably going to do Beastmaster because I cannot imagine Salt actually competently taking care of animals in a medical setting. She's like 10. So yeah, that would be bad. But I can't imagine her getting herself into stinking a lot of trouble. So, because it would be funny. And it is very much the kind of thing she would do. She is very much a gremlin NPC. Very high energy. One of my favorite ones to play as a DM, to be fair. Big Entrapta vibes. Perhaps gremlin's the wrong word, but yeah, she's great. The point is, I think that we ought to, I don't know, jump in here. It's been so long since we've done the early stages of this. Like, the last time was Art Fight, which was July? Which was 3 months ago. Two months ago and change, technically. Where do we even start? Actually, thinking, for the sake of reference, let's open one of those up and actually look at how we were doing it. What was one that turned out pretty good? Izetta turned out quite good, from Care Bear Tomo. That was a fun one. Okay, so we did... I know our order of operations isn't exactly the same. Okay, so we did proportion... Oh, okay, that was a little warm-up on proportions. And also... Oh, right. Really helpful if I actually do this. Okay, proportion guide, and then figuring out the pose. Just roughing that in. Interesting. Okay. And then we got into here and we actually did line work. Ooh, that one works really well without the lines too. The face doesn't quite as well. But interesting. Got into line work and then fill, value, shadow. Okay. Good. You know, so when you don't practice something long enough, you forget your own darn process. And Mikola was such a stinking hectic kit. I wonder how many layers in the... I don't actually want to know how many layers are in this project. 30 of them don't have names, so that's a bad sign. We're on layer 30 of the unnamed ones. I'm not trying to... Okay, there we go. Somewhere in there. The time lapse of this one's going to be incomprehensible, partly because, like, it started, this is V2, there was a V1 that didn't get anywhere close to this far, so... Well, that's certainly something. But yeah, we've got palette tests, which were a mess. We got the sketching, which was many messes. Ah, that's a whole different pose back there, hiding, peeking out from behind. Reworking, rough sketches, most of which are still hidden. Background and characters, that would have been a whole thing. It would have been a cool thing, but it would have been a whole thing. And then the final sketch, which we ultimately didn't even need. Well, I mean, we needed it. Like, it was definitely essential, but we didn't use. Like, this is a lineless sketch, technically. Really, in every sense. We've got some lines on the show tell, but nevertheless. And so that one was just a whole mess. Izetta was a little more functional, so let's have a go with Salt. I've got ourselves a nice big square, normal-shaped canvas set up. And we will have a go from that, shall we? Oh boy. Oh, we're already running behind. Problem is, trying to do one of these a day, the time crunch gets a little bit scarier, you know? Just that little bit more like, ooh. Okay, now I will also clarify, I've been testing this one out in pencil a little bit in advance, so I have some sense of what I want to be doing. Let's get ourselves something really sizable. Like 600, yeah. We'll do 400, 500. 500 it is. Just a nice gray, we'll do our sort of posy, silhouette-y thingamadoohickey. Figure out where we want to go with that. Okay. Gonna get like a hip line going. Leg connections, of course. And then I'm thinking with Beastmaster, it'd be fun if they're just stinking like pigeons. I know, fantasy world and witches and all that, but like part of that's interacting with actual nature too. Okay. And we've got the... What do I'm a little too high on that. And also a little too not angled enough. We really want, like, bent over a little more. Then I've got the Among Us rib cages, basically, which, like, technically... Oh, right, more like that. Ah, yes, vectors. We can finally use them again in a way that is meaningful in any sense. Arm goes there. Let's figure out the legs real quick. We got one that's going to come out to here. Kind of bend in a little bit. And we're doing a more of a kneeling pose, which again, I've sort of worked out in advance, which is why I'm just like blasting it down right now. One arm reaching out to whatever critter it is, and the other one like probably just stabilizing a little bit. That one will be in the back. Head somewhere here. Okay. Then... I don't know, something like that. We'll get the silhouette going. Just, I don't know, human shapes. I feel like these proportions are like more adult proportions, and that's, like, maybe we need to go a little shorter on this. Just... Part of it's that the legs are probably like a little too long, but that is something easily fixed with like shoe. I see, that feels a little too bent over. I think I've leaned into it too much. Let's maybe chill on some of the silhouette. Gonna let me undo? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Can't even... Oh, too many lines. Maybe vectors are bad for this particular freeform silhouette layer deal. Whoops. Okay. Hold on. We can use layer 1 for this. This is a good use for this anyway. I think maybe let's try tilting that up a little bit. Then moving the head down. But it's still engaged. And probably should be a little higher from ribs in any case. Yep. Okay. And arms coming down. An exact silhouette, this is not, for the record. I really gotta look at the critter in question. Our placeholder animal. Here. Yeah. I don't know what this critter is. I wouldn't trust it. Definitely not a bird. In any case, I got something of like a silhouette-y pose there. Just checking my notes. I've got. I just wrapped up a sketchbook, but it means that relevant sketches to this are like spread across several books now. So I'm very excited to finish a sketchbook. Like that's huge. I haven't done that in a couple years. Not since I started this one. But yeah, it's on the flip side, it's a little rough in some spots. Okay, let's see. Man, I haven't been doing my like silhouette practice exercises. I need to get back into those. Let's do a sketch layer. It might turn into our line work layer. It might not. Actually, dunk the silhouette. Nope. I said I was going to do it on the other layer, and then I just stinking didn't. Ah, whatever. There we go. That feels in line with it, but still better. We'll see. In any case, on the sketch layer, we're going to drop our size down a lot. Even to 70s, yeah. Okay. Now let's start thinking about Salt and like actual how she looks. I'm gonna make everything below like a little softer so we can get our sketch going here. Whoops. Let's maybe do that before undoing the lines. Okay, so let's see. Let's also do this on the correct layer. Third time's the charm. So she's obviously got her little like I don't know, tunic-y deal going on here. Let's see. Then the boots. Oh yes, that's why I brought this sketchbook. This sketchbook. Okay. Sorry, digging through nonsense. Yes. Alright, I've been messing with it, and I'm kind of enjoying a slightly more, like, bulky, cartoony design for the boots, and I may do similar stuff. Like, I'm gonna try to accentuate the rest of the design a little more, too. Really thinking them as sort of tapering from this point out to, like, even, like, a little behind the foot, but, like, almost all of the foot. Not quite all of the foot. So we'll end up with a shape, something more like... Let's see. Ah, right. Yeah, I kind of want the back curved outward, too. At least until the end. Maybe not that much, though. Hmm. So we wanted to sort of, like, in-curve and then out. Yeah, okay, yeah, there we go. There we go. Something more like that. And, of course, at the bottom it won't be the literal. We'll have, like, the fact that it kind of arcs out over this, and there'll be some... Don't know what those two are, but, like... Out and in. The crystal does kind of help with this part, poking it out a little bit, which is nice. Got the wrap, and then it like fits over the foot, or the shoe, or whatever. And I'm not going to fret too much about like soles or historical accuracy or any of that stuff on this one. I got way too pretentious about Ollie's like shoes, and it messed with perspective because they just don't look like modern sense of shoe. Also decided I think I like the boots if they're like a little bit more soft and flexible. Like leather probably, but like not toughened leather. Let's see. This is going to have some interesting bunching, I assume. Yeah, we'll see on the bottom of the foot there, but it's a start. But, like, really leaning into it. I'm trying to pay more attention to shape language. I want to be, like, conceptually it's easy to understand. I'm just bad at executing on it. I don't know how one does. Okay, then kind of a belt line here. Probably gonna get buried a little bit in that. There we go. Some of it's tightened to the belt, but there's not gonna be room for a lot of bagginess on the back because she's leaning over and pulling it taut. Okay. Still plenty of bagginess on the front, though. Something like that, perhaps? Freeing up my mouse for a second to look at something. Cool. Okay, we'll put that back. And back to tablet. Awesome. Okay. Thinking about arm. Really, like, arms are by and large just a simple taper. Like, we can make it more complex, but let's start with that. And I don't mean, like, you know, the only thing you need to worry about on arm is a taper. Obviously not, but, like, the overall shape of an arm is that it tapers. And so, like, when I'm just roughing it in like this, that's where I'm going to start. Okay. That ought to just all be like that. Okay. I don't think the angle of that would... No. Okay. Maybe there, but not anywhere else. Okay. Then a couple of other... Man, Saul probably has too many details to be well cartooned. I mean, I'm sure that's not the case, but it is something I need to think about, like what's important in the design and what is sort of superfluous. Because the stuff that was important in earlier versions may not be always important. Like her funny, like, multi-tailed jacket here. Or cloak. I love it. But is it, like, really relevant to most things? Like, anymore? Like, it makes sense with their D&D backstory, but, like, for just day-to-day sketches, is it actually, like, useful to maintain that? Well, that's kind of a good, just if I'm trying to rough in a face shape. Okay. Going to screenshot that just in case it's a useful tool later. Because I suspect we're going to be putting some stuff over it in this particular drawing. Yeah, I think it would make sense that she would just push the hat back rather than, like, dealing with some of that stuff. So, hat back. That will affect the hair, however, so I'll have to think about that. And kind of a parallel flowing line here. Nice. Keep her hat simple for now. I mean, we could always do another one, but at some point too many crooks, like, complicates things. Ooh, I kind of like that, actually. I'm talking about Salt is supposed to be like a circle and triangle shape language, because she's stinking bouncy and jumps all over the place and probably causes dangerous situations, but she is still, like, a kid and, like, not actively aggro. But, like, the stability of a square is definitely not... should not exist anywhere in her shape language. Like, this is probably too much square. But she's paused to, like, interact with little birds, so... a moment of calm. Where are ears going to be on this? Like, kind of up here? Oh boy. Okay. Way through is usually eye line. Base of the nose is going to be more like here. That's not really her nose shape. Let's try that again. Mouth. Of course, eyes. And, somewhat complicatedly at this angle, glasses. And I need to actually think about the hairline on this one, because this weird angle means I can't just judge it from the hat like I tend to do with Salt. Some of these are hairs that don't usually get to see the light of day. There we go. Let's not make it so scraggly that it's distracting. We just want it to be, like, a little visible. Probably still a little too scraggly, but that is okay for now. An actual ice somewhere behind. Glasses. Just trying to figure out positioning of stuff right now. Kind of a rough angle for glasses. So, I've got that. This sleeve is just going to drape wherever it is, and that's fine. Pretty much just straight down. We'll just have, like, actual arm by the time we get down here. Like, implication that the hand is sort of balancing off that way. That's okay. And then, what should Salt be feeding this little bird? I mean, we don't want to encourage people to feed birds breadcrumbs, but also it is, like, the quintessential thing to do, and Salt would not know better, so... guess she could hold out her hand with some bird seed in it, who knows? But... that's kind of a complicated pose in its own right, but we can try. For such a simplified arm, we're going to have to be a little bit careful. Not overdo the hand. Like that. 2 thumbs. That's not the right number of thumbs. Maybe a cracker. Just something simple. Still not a good thing to feed to a bird, but you know, we'll deal with that part when we deal with that part. Again, hardly a final design on that. But I think that's at least giving us something of a pose to work with. The next thing we can do is think a little bit about some of the details that ought to be on here. And making sure that they all get in place. I kind of like the arc that forms, even though it doesn't make quite as much sense. It's a good arc. Whoops, that was the wrong hotkey. Try a slightly smaller eraser. Okay. So that's a fairly sketchy salt that we've got here. Let's think about this critter. Now, at one point I'd been thinking, oh, let's go all in on fantasy creatures. Let's have like a little baby manticore. Then I tried to draw a baby manticore. Baby manticores turn out kind of creepy because it's a lion and a scorpion. And so you get like, I don't know, like kind of cute little like catty face and like, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, you know. Getting like a little, I mean, that's kind of looking a little more like a mouse, but point is like soft, friendly. Even with the claws and everything, it's not like that horrifying. Then you start getting over to the scorpion bit, and you're like, okay, we've got like hard shell, awful legs, and like suddenly it's just like this is no longer a cute creature. And it's like I don't really want to draw like a bunch of these little dudes, you know? You know what I mean? Like nothing against scorpions, they're cool. And nothing against lions or anything like that. But like making a cute scorpion is going to be a challenge that I'm not entirely sure I'm up for today. Like that looks like it belongs in an Elden Ring poison swamp. So, instead of that, let's consider not that. We're just gonna scoot you. Okay, good. Just over here. You go have fun. Let's instead consider bird. Now, bird has lots of fun options. To copy another one from a sketchbook, perched in a tree, so it wouldn't be an exact one-to-one, but we could work with it as a starting point. Okay. Marked up from that. Like, they're not inherently all that complicated. You can get, like, a pretty cute perched bird. Of course, if you want to have, like, something that looks like it fits the scene and isn't it just entirely the wrong angle and all that jazz, we're going to have to actually draw new birds. But that's okay. I like drawing birds. Birds are fun. So, with that in mind, I'm going to look up some bird refs on my phone. Because I like drawing birds, but it is good to know what a bird looks like. Let's go for crows. Crows are fun. Clever little birds. Okay, I am falling out of my chair. Posture check for anyone who hasn't done one just yet. Worth doing. We'll do like little ones. We don't need giant ones in here yet. I know a lot of the bird folks like identify them by their beaks, so it's going to be important to get that right. Oh good, my package shipped. Nice. He's looking up a little bit. Somebody's intrigued about whatever she's holding. We got the actual back of the bird in there still somewhere too, because that's eventually going to sort of flare off into the tail feathers. That was kind of a little abrupt. Perhaps I ought to go to pigeons. I mean, I think they'd be funny. They're not really a famous witch-like bird, but they are funny. I'm gonna look up some pigeons. Okay. Oh, jeepers, this is a chubby little pigeon. Okay. Nice plumage, though. I think that's plumage. I always forget the pigeons are basically, like, they're literally just doves, right? Like, they're the same bird. It looks kind of angry. Let me get the wing on here. This is looking increasingly just ominous. Like a sandworm. I've got like a little bit of floof and then like the talons just like barely sticking out. This is probably bad for the pigeon, but it is very cute looking. Give you like a little more head form. That's fine. There we go. Just glowering at us. I don't need pigeon clip art, especially not when they look not at all like a pigeon. Or rather, it looked like a pigeon the same way that, like, you know, like a threatening note made out of cut up newspaper clippings? Like, yeah, it's a sentence, but, like, it's all hodgepodge and helter-skelter and it doesn't really fit together. That, but as an image of a pigeon. Not great. Yeah, we don't really get a lot of pigeons. We get some. I think. I'm not actually sure all that much about our local bird fauna populations. Like just like one little foot out there, another one. And I know they've got like their hook claws and stuff on the back, talons and so on, but pigeon doodles. Okay, point is, I think we can get some decent looking birds, and I think we can do a decent looking salt. So, why don't we take our pause here real quick, get some water. I know it's technically early if you're on the VOD, folks, but for stream it is just shy of 9 o'clock here. And so we will take our pause, and then we'll come back, and we'll try to do some actual, like, line work, like actual line work, and then we will, I don't know, go from there. So, I guess just take 5, everybody, and I'll see y'all in just a couple minutes. Howdies and salutations, y'all! We are back once again. Hope y'all been enjoying the music. We've still got Stardew and Passpartout as our entire soundtrack right now. I'm sure I'll burn out on it at some point, but, like, I don't know. It's nice, it's royalty-free, it's not, like, super fuzzy lo-fi. I like lo-fi, but I don't work well with lo-fi. Or maybe I do. Who stinking knows? It's possible I overthink my music choices. And by possible, I mean certain. So, let's jump back into this. I need to think for just a half a second. Do we want to use the G pen, but like a slightly finer point for our actual lines here? Like a 50? It's funny, a 50 would have been such a large point on the Mikola one. We were having to work in like 10s and 12s. And with the earlier stuff, we were having to work in like 1s to 5s. Like, the bigger canvases really do make a noticeable difference. Having so much more pixelage to work with, I suppose. That's definitely not a word, but I'm going to stand by that choice. Okay, so. Guess it's also not a bad time to pull up one other thing. Exports, archive. Let's grab Salt's character sheet. Where the heck it's, there we go. Just so we got our character reference, and in case anyone doesn't know her, Salt is the OC that we're doodling here. And, yeah, I don't know. Fun character, but it never hurts to, like, refresh. Interesting, with the eyes, there's... Normally the trope is to have beady eyes when the glasses are off, but she's got beady eyes even with them on. I'm gonna have to think about that a little bit. Because that's definitely not how I've always drawn her, it's just how she ended up on this particular ref and stuff I was messing with. Faces are still, I'm getting better at faces, but they are still challenging to consistently do. So, something to work on, I suppose. I like the shadow colors on this one a lot, though. But that's a question for a different day. The topic of discussion too. Whoops, that... Well, be that as it may. Cool. I guess I've got my ref pulled up now. I accidentally snapped it to the side of the screen, and so it's just sort of there. Lovely. Alright, and then I'm adjusting my stinking posture. I've got, like, my tablet pushed way too far away, and my arm keeps running into the side of my desk. So hopefully y'all can still hear me. Hopefully there's not, like, garbo echo. And, yeah, we're just gonna work with this. I wonder if I could even, like, set this up a little higher, or if that would cause problems. Sorry for noises. Sorry for noises. Okay, let's try. Oh, it does cause one problem of I can't see my entire screen. Okay, well, that. I'm gonna just trim the top off of the stand. Anyway, that is not a problem for right now. Or a puzzle that should be solved in a moment. Okay, so let's think about light source before we mess with lines, because we can, if we're clever with our line weight, we can use it to our advantage. I don't know how much we'll actually do that, but I want to at least have it in mind. I feel like we ought to have a light source. Yes, mostly above. We'll have some, like, backlighting and reflection and stuff to get the face. But, like, mostly above, so we'll get, like, fairly heavy shadows on the bottom of things, and then underneath, like, rims of the hat, for example. Okay. Then let's actually have something of a go at this. This is a vector layer, right? Good, 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 good. That is essential. I'm not going for, like... with Mikola, I was really focusing aggressively on, like, proportions and anatomy. My only goal with the Salt is to just look, like, plausible. Like, bigger one down there, flaring this way. Oh, okay, that's pretty good, actually. Like, do a little... Whoops, that was the wrong... Do a little cleanup there. Nothing. No lines too bold here. Again, we'll just sort of assume that this is going to get wrapped pretty tight. Even, like, pull up a little bit on the shoe. That gemstone is definitely not going to be the most comfortable thing to kneel on, but is what it is. Sorry, Salt, for designing an outfit like that. Okay, let's see. There we go. Kind of a wonky foot, but it is okay. A few tension lines there, and then I need to think through how I want to shade this, but we're going to do our line work first, and then we'll think about our shading styles, because the options I'm considering for shading, none of them would be affected by how we do the line work. Try to clean up straight lines there. Alright, good, we're on the correct layer still. Stones, I'm gonna have to think about those because they definitely aren't like essential design components, they're just sort of there. Let's see. Oops. I moved my keyboard when I adjusted all the other stuff, and so now I'm a little bit out of sorts. That's okay. I may hit a few wrong keys at first, but we will get there. Calico Desert. Ah, okay, that's why I don't recognize the song. I do believe that is further in the game than I have gotten. Stardew is a stinking long game, for the record. Like, I did not realize what I was signing up for the first time I played it. And I have not made it anywhere near to, like, the quote-unquote end or finish or what have you. But there is just so much to do. And every time I think I've finished something off on a checklist, it unlocks something new, which is great as an RPG and stressful if you're trying to, like, finish the game. So I don't recommend, on your first go, trying to do that. It does not, in fact, contribute to the joy. What's that Marie Kondo thing? Like, does this bring joy? Going all in, trying to 100% Stardew Valley, for me, does not. This one, I'm thinking about shadows from the top down a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. Save that. Yeah, I thought I'd accidentally hit erase mode. Forgot I have a hotkey for that on my pen itself. Man, I used to use the buttons on my pen all the time. I ought to, like, bind those to something useful. Because that would be really good, actually, to work those back into my workflow. Okay, there we go. Some pretty deep shadows in here. Then we've got this, which is, I don't know, flaring in a way that doesn't entirely make sense, but it's fun. Actually, it might be a thing that I can make sense of later. Because I've got in my head, I've got a concept in my mind. In which case, I should make it more tame now, though. Of essentially like a sort of two-panel comic would be giving it too much credit, but like 2 frames, which are almost but not quite identical, to tell a little bit of a story with this, but we'll see. I don't want to commit to that until I know we'll actually, have time to do it. So we'll start with the cloak being fairly withdrawn. That was once again the wrong button. Which is okay. Okay, and then we'll just get another one in there, and it'll be semi-visible. And the next one, that could be sort of symbolic of hair standing on end, since her hair already kind of does that. Like, we may have those raise a little bit, like a shiver going down the spine. I think it'll be fun. We'll see if we get there, though. No spoilers until we do, of course. Let's see. Rather than fretting too much about exactly what I'm working on, because with line work, sometimes it just pays to kind of get in the zone and let it happen a little bit. Definitely with shading and some of the other ones, but with line work too. So I'm trying to think of what other interesting stuff I've got to talk about right now. It has been heckin' busy. Let's see, got my flu shot, checked out the eclipse. I don't know if anyone else saw that. That was stinking cool. And not just because it actually got me to finish Mikola, although that was the coolest. That was very cool too. I needed that. Really needed that. Any old impetus will do. But the eclipse itself was also just awesome. If you were in a place to see it, I didn't see the full thing, but like any eclipse at all is just so cool. And like, I don't know, I highly recommend like getting some eclipse glasses or goggles or what have you. If you're ever near those, because it really does make a difference. Being able to see it like that, it makes so much of a difference. Highly recommend. Let's see, but I don't know. It's also weird when you like look at it and you realize like, wow, the sun is like a noticeable portion of it is covered, and yet it doesn't feel like significantly darker out. Like everyone was like, it's like, yeah, you can tell that something is up. It's like off-putting a little bit, but it really just kind of looked hazy, ozony. It didn't look dark, you know? Like, you'd assume that having that much of it obscured would make a more noticeable difference, or at least I assumed as such. And I should have kept those two circles. They were good. Okay, that'll do. Don't know why they're that high up on the face. I'm gonna have to rotate those a little bit, but, you know. Needs must, as I'm sure someone says. I don't actually want to grab that part. Name it from ear to nose. Bing. Okay. And then we'll fix the face shape, don't worry. But the other stuff is... Oh, I've had a lot of fun reading lately. Which is something I was afraid I wouldn't have the time to do anymore, but life hack, grody or otherwise, is just keep a stinking book in like a shelf on in your restroom, like, because that's a time you're already not doing anything during that time. Well, I mean, not doing anything entertaining, and like, I don't know, as far as like browsing meme sites and stuff go, I never found like my bathroom browsing was like the times when I found funny stuff. It's just trying to distract yourself. So if you're already going to have to burn that time doing something, may as well, like, have a little fun with it, you know? Like, read a book, maybe. Or at least a couple chapters of one. Now, I will say, I don't think this works for every type of book. Surprisingly, I found it works very well for, or at least well enough for academic articles, if you're not in a rush to, like, complete them. It's not a bad way to just, like, slowly work your way through a couple pages at a time. Or even a couple paragraphs at a time, and just doop. Read my friend's master's thesis that way, and that was pretty cool. But on the flip side, like, actually I've also found, once again, if you need like deep, thorough thought and analysis about something, it's probably not the best way to do it. But it is a fun way to, like, it's a fun way when you're just trying to do your casual reading. So like, if you're doing stuff for a class, 50-50. Unless you're bringing a highlighter in there, which I don't recommend. But if you're just doing fun casual reading, like, it's great. And it doesn't have to be easy casual reading. Like, whew, pardon me. That's how I read Frankenstein. I never had to read it for a class, and it's like the origin of science fiction. I was like, I need to check this out. And so I did. And it was pretty fun. Books that did not work at all, The Silmarillion. It's so dense and moves so slowly that, like, it felt like I was retreading ground and, like, not actually making any progress on it. Which I think was true. Now, that's not entirely the bathroom's fault. I've tried to read the Silmarillion 3 separate times because I really, really want to be able to. It's like quintessential Middle-earth everything. However, I have bounced off of it 3 separate times and only once even made it through the creation story. Because there was some part of me that kept being like, okay, this is cool. This is kind of like a Genesis-y, biblical, like, creation-y story. Awesome. When do we get to the story? But I don't think you do. I think that's just the style of the whole work. Which, fair. Like, I'm not saying Tolkien was wrong, and he seems to have... Like, he's always been one who is more excited about the world than the characters in it. However, it's a little inaccessible. At least for me. Like, I'm happy to have another go at it at some point. But, like, this just made it... I can't get into it. I want to so bad, and I just can't. One of these days, though. He's like singing Dario with that face. Let's maybe try something a little less Howdy lip face with that. That's a lot. Let's face has always been a little more round than that in any case. E, there we go. Technavit E. There we go. Ugh. Faces! Not that the face is inherently bad or anything like that, it's just that I can never get them to look... Like, I'm getting to where I can render a face, yeah, but it's not the face I wanted to draw. Like, it's the wrong one somehow, and it just keeps happening, and I don't know how to fix it. Presumably the answer is practice and study, but practice and study of what? Do I need to be studying, like, actual people's faces? Do I need to be studying, like, cartoon characters and how they've decided to abstract faces? Like, or anatomy and, like, the pieces of the face? Like, there's 1,000,001 art guides, and none of them have been helpful on this. Let's see. Okay, it's thinking, let me... Yeah, like, it just looks... I think I'm arcing it too much, because it's giving me, like... I don't know. Like, let's go flatter. That's better. Still looks, like, a little too dark, probably, but it's a start. This doesn't really look like Salt, it looks like another character, but I think getting some of the other layers out of the way will help us work on that a little bit. Now that we've got most of this. Oops, right. Kept trying to adjust the rotation using the other scale. Okay. Part of it that might be that her head is tilted a little too far down now, which is something we can solve. Trying to think. I feel like this looks like teenager Salt or something. Like proportion-wise, like a little too lanky. And like, I don't know. Maybe it's the hair detail, maybe it's the eyes. Oh, there's a few things. Stuff to work on. But no matter on that, it's all still a starting point. I definitely feel like I should clean these up a little bit, though. This calls for the really small erasers. It makes you really appreciate the vectors. It means I don't have to get in all those weird nooks and crannies. vector tool can just chase it down. It's sort of like that like roach poison where like the roach brings it back to the hive so it gets all of them. Except for lines. I feel like this is actually a terrible metaphor and I shouldn't have used it. Oh well. No matter, the deed is done. And in any case, back to reading. The reason I brought that up was not to talk about the Silmarillion, even though that is a book that I still desperately want to read. So badly. I want to be able to read it. Like, it's not like... I have the time and the access to it, technically. Like, but I don't have the patience for it. And I feel like my reading patience is just getting worse. But I've gone and gotten distracted by the Silmarillion again. Dagnabbit. What I wanted to talk about is what I actually have been reading, which has been fascinating. First off, I read, let's see, The Diary of Lady Murasaki, which has been fascinating. Written by, if you know anything about, I was going to say written in the Heian era, but if you've heard of the Heian period in Japan, you probably already have heard of Murasaki, because she's like one of the definitive writers from that period. So like, for context, it's around like the late 900s, early 1000s by Western calendar standards. They were operating off of a different one, so it doesn't quite map one to one. It's basically a sort of pre-feudal-ish time in Japan. There was an early proto-empire. They were starting to get like structures and bureaucracy and all the stuff around it in, let's see, this was post-Nara. This would have been... Is this Kyoto? I need to double check. I'm still like... And I wanted to learn Japanese history a lot in school, and I never had a chance to take a class on it at any time in college, at any time in my history degree, just because it was never offered at a time when I could take it. Either from course schedules, or from just like they only offered it certain semesters, or just all sorts of problems with that. So, I've been trying to research it more on my free time, because it's fun and interesting. And so, this was sort of like an early imperial phase. But it's also in a phase where there was a lot of like... The aristocrats were very secluded and out of touch with the world, but very in touch with their own little tiny obsessive world, with all their little in-jokes and phrases and references. And I don't mean to say that in like a condescending way. Like, it's not like we're any different today, Tumblr. But... and, you know, every stinking other bubble of, like, middle-class folks. I mean, stinking Twitch. Not that everyone on Twitch is middle-class. But, like, the point is that we get these, like, subgroups and subcultures that have their bubble and maybe don't interact with other bubbles so much, and, like, they get very caught up in their own things and can really build and iterate off of them. Like, Twitch Plays Pokemon's a better example. A short-lived example, mind you, but a good example. Because it's a little group that, for the period of that whole event, basically lived in their world. Like, they weren't hanging out other places. They were living in the Twitch Plays Pokemon world, and they were iterating on these small details they had to work with. Every little thing that happened became a story moment, something important. Because there wasn't, like, the game itself had already been played out. There wasn't going to be new, interesting stuff happening from the game itself, so it was just the quirks of this particular playthrough. And so everything becomes a reference, or building off of references, or building off of lore, to something that's happened in this playthrough. You get, like, Flareon, you get the Helix fossil, and all that jazz. And they were the same way, except for decades. They lived in their world, and were for the most part, isolated from, like, the quote-unquote peasantry and folks from the outside world. Which, in practice, meant that, they got hyper-focused on writing poetry and all the little quirks of their court life and culture. And what this means for the book is that, or rather for her diary that she kept. Let's see. Sorry, trying to get that line. Yes. What it means for that diary is that it is very, very, A, fascinating, because it's a world so different from A, modern Japan, and B, anything else that you've probably experienced, because we didn't live there, and it was very much its own little thing. Where social standing could be determined by your ability to do slam poetry. That's not exactly right, but it's kind of right. Um, haikus, to an extent, and other 5, 7 syllable structures were very popular. The point being, whoops, that their priorities and focuses were very niche, but because it was also sort of the early period of like written Japanese, the style of writing is very conversational because it was so directly related to spoken Japanese. Like, they hadn't been writing long enough to have like very definitively like this is how you communicate when you write, and this is how you say it when you type. Like, they didn't bother with any of that stuff yet. It was just so it feels like a lot of times it's very well written, but it also feels very conversational at times, which is stinking awesome because it really takes you into the moment. And being a diary emphasizes this too, of course, but like it feels like they're having a very earnest conversation, like, hey, here's the things happening in my world, here's interesting descriptions of them, like, here's what's up. And it's just very cool. Doubly so because it was actually a period of excellent women's scholarship, because most of the men were still writing in Chinese because that was sort of the official court language, and so women weren't supposed to write in it, but so they used Japanese. But the men's writing was all very like record keeping based, like all the accounts are just this happened and people wore this and did this and did that, and this occurred and this occurred and this occurred, just factual, like here are the events, here are the list of personnel and so on. Certainly not all of it, there was excellent poetry and all, but a lot of the writing was in that format, record keeping basically. Whereas this writing, so it provides this interesting contrast, but also means that the like pretty much all of the like what we would consider the best writers by modern standards were women, and it meant that they're really good. But also was the fact that hers is not the only writing we have. Like, not just Lady Murasaki, not that that's her actual name, that's a mix of her title and a character in the book she wrote, which was The Tale of Genji. But we don't have her actual name recorded, fortunately. But not only do we have her writings, we also have a lot of contemporary writings, including Sai Shonagon, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing that right. Sai Shonagon? I apologize. But it's another account with her pillow book is the one that I'm reading right now. I finished Murasaki's diary. Lady Murasaki's diary, excuse me. Like, I don't know, it's fascinating because it is also very conversational, but it reads essentially, it seems like a lot of it was written partly as just accounts of her life and days, but also partly as a guide of like, hey, here's useful poetic references. And so what it becomes is essentially a dictionary of pop culture for this time period. They're like, here's interesting things. If you need to talk about this emotion in your poem, here's some ponds to consider. Here's some flowering plants that might be good for that particular allegory, and different references and stuff like that. In addition to excellent storytelling and accounts that are very well written and very fascinating about just day-to-day life and culture. Commentary, of course, on everyone that she meets. And, like, it's fun because, A, having a dictionary for pop culture is such a wonderful, rare thing. Well, I guess, okay. In the Middle Ages, you can cheat a lot of it because almost all of them just, in Europe at least, use the Bible. And Bible stories, and then also ancient Greek and Roman myths that had been filtered through the ages. But even then, the versions they had and the versions we have now are hardly one-to-one matches, so it still takes some translation. And there's lots of little local differences and stories and stuff that's just, you know, it is what it is. Like, it's just their little local pop culture. Like the dog who was granted sainthood, not by the Pope, but by, well, at least not by one of the popes. Complicated time, that. But the point was, like, lots of interesting idiosyncrasies and stuff going on, but it's hard to record them. Like, we don't necessarily know all the stuff they reference. Like, we may know of a book from 3 or 4 sources that talk about it, but we may not have that anymore. So to have this guide that's basically like, A, we have 2 of the major, like, poetry collections from the century before them, so we know a lot of their, like, actual poems they reference by name. And then we have these accounts that are essentially like, here's the pop culture of the day, here's the references, here's the stuff to know, here's the implications. And it's just, more than almost any other historical work, it really does make me feel like I'm back in time at that place. Like, so many I love history and, like, being able to, like, try to get a sense of the past, but not every work is created equal for that, let me assure you. And many of them, you know, that's not what they're for. That's hardly the intent of almost any work, and any work that actually sets out to do that is probably going to be biased as all heck. As are any other works, to be fair. That's just kind of how writing works. Or at least writing histories. So, what it means is that to get something that really, like, does just draw you into that world so completely is fascinating. Highly recommending these reads. Obviously, you know, I also studied history, so I have patience for some academic stuff. I would recommend Murasaki's if you just want, like, a quick glance into the world. Sai Shonagon seems to have a better, more in-depth view, but it's also intermixed with a lot of these lists and accounts and things that may be a little dry for folks who aren't otherwise interested in them. But seriously, they're both very fun reads. And very, very... One of those things that you always run into in history is that people have always been people, and they'll probably always be people. Like, the stuff she complains about is, like, exactly the same stuff people complain about now. Her commentary on, like, social cues and stuff. For all of the cultural differences, some of them translate very well. And part of this is obviously the skill of the actual translators. But part of this is also just that some of these things haven't changed that much in all of history. I'm trying to think of a particular one. Oh, just like people complaining about, like, crying children on the plane, and one of her lists of, like, was it disturbing things or, like, most obnoxious things or something like that. They're wonderful lists. Very, very entertaining, some of them. And it's just, like, in one of her lists, she's talking about the kid crying next door and, like, being a pain, and she's trying to sleep. It's like, yep, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And obviously kids are always going to have done that, and sound that is distracting and annoying in the best of circumstances. Which is sort of its purpose. It wouldn't be very good if it wasn't. They need to get your attention when they're in danger. That's the whole point. But like, it's so many other more mundane things too. And I love, like, the little mundane things like that. Like, I love Le Morte d'Arthur. Absolutely, I adore it. But the world it gives insight to is, so distant from even its own writers. They were writing about events and mythology from hundreds of years earlier, and oftentimes in different countries. Like, Lancelot is originally written about in French accounts. So Lancelot was a later edition from France. Which is, fascinating, but it does mean there is some distance between, like, all of those stories and, like, whatever the original tales and myths were, and different things like that. It's also why Lancelot is kind of a Mary Sue. And, like, you can't even fight me on that. Lancelot is, like, the uber Mary Sue character. With the exception of one glaring character flaw that absolutely destroys him, which is his stinking crush on Guinevere. Mutual crush, but nevertheless, it's not great. So not a full Mary Sue, but he is, like, super overpowered, and, like, the knights who were previously, like, the top Arthurian knights, almost all of them get, like, beaten by him throughout the course of some of those stories, and I don't think it's a coincidence that he's the French one. Lancelot du Lac of the Lake. From Brittany in France. So, you know, fun stuff like that. But it doesn't give you, like, insight into the day-to-day lives. It's accounts of the stories and epics, and often, like, personal encounters, like romances and relationships, but not, like, day-to-day mundanities. The things that people actually experienced for most of their existence. It's still very hard to get a picture of that from a lot of different time periods. Like, we can extrapolate it, of course, but people didn't necessarily write about it. And even in, like, the Heian era, like, we're getting the accounts of the mundanities of the aristocracy, not the peasant life. You're getting almost, like, the stories of peasants are, as always, almost forgotten because they weren't allowed or given the opportunity to write. Very few histories give full, complete pictures. But it's wonderful to get those little snippets, because, you know, society has never been one homogenous thing. Like, asking what life was like in 1962, that's going to be a different answer for almost every person who was alive in 1962. And there's going to be some stuff they all remember, and some stuff that they all remember differently, or interacted with differently, or some people were probably fond of certain music that others hated, just like now. Plenty of counterculture and normal cultural movements. And different cultures around the world and places and technology and experience and, like, just all of it. All of it. Wealth and hierarchy and all of that jazz. Like, it's all going to be so different. So getting a snippet even into just some people's lives is such a cool opportunity. And I'm really enjoying it. Probably also the reason why my favorite Arthurian knight, like my absolute favorite, is Sir Dinadan. And I have to give the caveat, I have not read A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court, which is probably his most famous role. But in that one, he's a very different one, I hear. He's used as sort of like a commentary on other things and other social roles and such. But in the original Arthur tales, he's the straight man, the everyman, who's stuck in this world of like mythological heroes and giants. He is just stinking there. And he gets dragged into all sorts of nonsense. He's just riding along, and, like, Tristan ends up taking him along, or Tristram, and he ends up journeying with him for a while, and they end up, like, running across, like, 40 knights who are out hunting Tristram, and so Tristram's like, okay, you take the 20 on the right, and I'll take the 20 on the left, you know, like an action hero. And Dinadan's like, no, what? No, what? No, we should leave. And so Tristram just shrugs and says, suit yourself, and fights all 40 of them. And Dinadan's just like, why do I even travel with you? What? Because almost every time Dinadan gets dragged into it and then gets injured. And so you've got Tristram going on like 6 months of journey while Dinadan's recovering in an abbey somewhere, like from grave wounds. And then Tristram shows up again. He's like, we're going on another adventure, right? And Dinadan's like, do we have to? Do we really have to? And Tristram's like, come on, get your like your knightly spirit and your chivalrous spirit. And it's like, are you sure? And then it happens again, and Dinadan ends up in basically the hospital. And it's just like, you feel bad for him, but it's also like comical seeing just a very, it's like that old joke of like, or not joke, suggestion, have one normal dude in the Olympics so we have someone to counter against. Dinadan's presence, of course, makes all the heroic ones seem all the more heroic, because you see what a normal person's reaction is, and it contrasts that. But also, it's just really stinking funny, and I like it. Also, he has one of his bigger monologues is probably, like, admonishing the whole courtly love system in mess, and it's presented as he's probably in the wrong by the writers. But, like, everything he calls out is exactly the stuff that destroys King Arthur's court at the end. Like, all the stuff that gets Lancelot, all the stuff that gets Agravain and Gawain, all of it. And Guinevere, and I guess not quite Morgan Le Fay and Mordred, but like most of the damages, like he's right. And like, he's like, this whole like, your chivalrous sense of love is going to cause so many problems later. It's a bad approach to it. And he's correct. Because it's not like modern chivalry. It's like the actual, like, well, not the actual medieval code, but the fantastical medieval code that has been recorded throughout the generations and so on. And it's fascinating. I stinking love Dinadan. He has some great one-liners, which are mostly sarcastic because, I mean, how else do you respond to that? You're like, ha ha ha, oh, you're serious. I shouldn't travel with you. This is a bad plan. And it's not like he was a bad knight. By normal knight standards and in tournaments and stuff, he does fine. It's just, whenever he ends up in those, like, fantasy situations where it's, like, 30 against 1, or they're fighting, they don't really fight giants and dragons and that. Most of the giants die before that story happens, and so on. But it's just, it's so funny. I would believe that he was an isekai protagonist who got no special powers and is just like, crud. But more importantly, he's just a fun commentary on the times and all of that. And on the social values of those days. And I really love him for it. Dinadan stinking rocks. but yeah, and like the same way, like it's just seeing those everyday life stuff, and you don't even get all that much of it from Din Dan, but you get a little more, and like that's such a hard thing to see in history because if you're writing in those days, there's something worth telling, something you think is important that everyone needs to know about, and the odds are you have a stake in that thing and strong opinions, or you have a limited data set and you're working with what you got, or like a handful of other things, like whatever the cause may be, it's like you're never like they recorded grandiose things and events. They rarely recorded the mundanities. As some places did, of course, but it's harder to find, and those are really the important. I hate to say the important stories. They're the interesting ones. They're the ones that make you like really understand a little, like not that you can ever fully understand, but like that little bit more what it was like actually existing in those days. And like, I don't know. I love that a lot. I'm excited about the tale of Genji. I'm sure that it's going to be more fantasized and all, but it's still going to be in this little, like, not this little, I don't mean that in like a condescending way, but in this world, like this completely foreign court, this completely different culture and concepts and time and priorities and like honors and values. And it's just very cool to see. I need to, like, time is getting away from me, as it is wont to do, so we need to pick up the pace something terrible. Just do, like, a bit of bread. Not what you should give birds, but, like, it's, you know, it's the traditional way. Like, we'll just add the caveat, don't actually feed bread to birds. It's not good for them. Alright, let's get in here and clean up these lines a little bit. And then... and my line weight's all over the place, but that's okay. Ah, the other part of the bread, of course. That was what I was forgetting. Definitely not the only thing I'm forgetting. We can do considerably less scratchy bread, methinks. Getting into shading and shadows and textures and all. Looks like it's going to be a long one tonight, y'all. That's okay. Bread. Not huge bread, but it's bread. Okay, and I think now I can hide the sketch on salt, and I still want to work on the face a little bit. Heck nabbit, I should have done this part sooner. We've got, like, way too many scraggly lines going on here that we can do much better on. I'm just going to toss that one entirely. Yeah, that's supposed to be the actual forehead, but I'm thinking we want something a little more like this, perhaps. And if this ends up being like Teenage Salt, then so be it. Like, we'll just have to think it through a little more on the next one. I'm still trying to figure out the best ways to cartoon Salt and all that jazz. Like, still a lot to learn about drawing a character consistently. That'll be good practice. This whole event will be good practice for that. Oh, this weird line is supposed to be... okay, got it. That's supposed to be the glasses. I know where to put the bird, or a bird, in order to make that work. Okay, let's see. Okay, and then that line, that's okay. Like, how do we do the face? Like the glasses and eye and such over here in a way that works? Got, you know, glasses. That's fine, whatever. Glasses. I need to rotate this a little bit. Okay, yeah, I feel like there'd be like a little more forehead happening here. Like, supposed to be more like that. Okay. And of course, we can do the all. Lift it back a little bit because refraction and all that jazz. The eye itself still needs to be like, somewhat believable. And also eyebrows are a thing. They were like that sort. I think that'll be fun. Worried that those eyebrows have ended up slightly too dark. That's okay. It will do. Or 10 minutes left and still many, many steps. Oh boy. Okay. Little bird references, don't fail me now. Badoo. Bird refs. Okay, pulling them up. Ah. There we go. I'm going to do bird lines on a separate layer. I like how some of these little ones turned out. They're fun, and they have a lot of character, so... a little more going on. I don't mind if these guys are a little scratchy. Yeah, we'll see if we have time for the bonus panel too and its ominous implications. There. Cool. Bird buddy. I like the idea of this one too, but I may give it a slightly sharper beak. Yeah, I know it's not as accurate, but like, I don't know, it's fun. With apologies to bird lovers everywhere. May not be the most accurate bird. Like, the freer lines on this was, like, really not the worst. I actually quite like the sort of trapezoidal tail plumage deal we've got going on here. We may stick with that a little bit, partly out of the necessity of time, but partly because it's also just kind of nice. I've lost a little bit with the way I did that. Yep. Ended up a little too top view. That's fine. I'm not even worrying about shading the legs. We're just going all in on this, because it fits well enough for them. Okay, let's see. I need just like a swarm of other little birds around. I'll do. Wow, there are a lot of bird stock photos. Guess I shouldn't be that surprised, but like, wow. Nope. Nope. Is this the one? No. Dang it, where's my select tool? Where is my select tool? There it is. This is suboptimal select tool usage, but it's okay. A little more confidence in that line. It's like not exactly turning out the way I'm wanting it to, but that's okay. A little too angular, probably. Maybe lose some of the jacket fluff and bring the shoulder up a little higher. Yeah. There we go. Now it looks like it's just searching around for any little like crumbs. Okay, let's see. Oh, I can feel the sleepiness hit me in the eyes. Oh dear. Okay, I need to move a little quicker. Maybe we can get our grandiose bird orb over here. I don't know. That one may be a little too unique in order to fit in well. It's like a reverse view. Yeah, I don't think so. Let's see if I can't pull up one more. Although actually having just a couple here is really probably sufficient. Okay, hiding the sketch layer. Adding an eye and some last little important details onto this dude. Okay. So now... Hey, okay. Gonna dunk these in a folder like we do. There we go. And I'm a little rusty on this sort of stuff, which is silly. It's not been that long. Probably been all that. Well, I guess we had the long gap. Okay, that's true. It has been a long time since we've actually done art streams in general, so fair. I don't know whether to call that prep or setup or what, but it is what it is. Okay. Nothing on that layer yet? Wunderschön. Okay. Get ourselves a neutral tone, fill in the heck out of all this. Not the whole background like I just did. Don't recommend that. We got pretty clean lines to work with at this point, so. The only issue is little tight areas, which is mostly fine. Knew I hit the background with one of those. Dagnabbit. Birds are a little sketchier, so we'll see. I never trust them, they're sketchy. But does mean we may not have as closed of lines. Although, still pretty darn good on all that. Working with large enough canvas size does make a world of difference on certain things. Okay. I think one of them is the closed tool's ability to function, truthfully. Okie dokie. Oops, and of course, belt. Now if we hide our line work for a second, I think we'll find there's still a few gaps, but nothing terrible. It's going to do a little bit of quick patching. Mostly for spots like this. Actually, pretty good silhouette, all things considered. Good bird clarity, too. Other than the legs. Okay. Now, I think other than on bird lines, I'm going to do a tiny bit of cleanup on this layer. I'm going to clean up anything where it's intersecting with the bird, where it shouldn't be. And of course this. Whoops. Don't want that. But yeah, otherwise... Cool. Okay, we got that. And this was always going to be semi-grayscale, so let me once more do, like... Where's the shape tool now? There is a shape that I've been planning since the start. It's not a complicated shape. I don't need to act like this took some massive amount of preparation. Like, everything needs to move just, like, a little bit over. There we go. See, that's pretty fun. Now, upshot is we can probably do fairly simple shading on this one. I had hoped to do more complex stuff, which we can experiment with a little bit, but I probably won't go all the way on, is my point. But, I guess step one is I'd do like a little bit of value planning, which is like the space layer. Ah, rats. A little bit of the circle got caught by the edge of the canvas. I always forget that if it's not on screen, it literally doesn't exist. Just patch that up well enough that I don't think anyone will notice. A little bit off, but it's fine. Not quite as pointy as the other one, but better. Better than having a flat edge, so yep. Okay. I'm just going to call this base. And we are going to just put away Salt's character sheet too. Dagnabbit. Going to use that just for my value planning. Which, I mean, I do literally know the values of all of her outfit stuff. But, so actually, let me thinking. No, I don't want to do that. You know what? We're going to go a little long today. That is fine. Rectify, character sheet. Salt. Let's see what the grays actually were. Heck it, why not, you know? Not a lot of highlights happening. A little bit, not much. Were there any actually? I'm not sure. Alright, but we got our base values here. Wonder if I can... Oh, right, we got... Probably close that one at this point. Can I, like, open these side by... Yes! Yes! Okay. I'm gonna swap that real quick. I don't have the nice kind of cream background to work off of. Maybe I ought to add that, but, Oh, it really is two separate files. Okay, so I can click into this one. And grab, like, say, tunic color. And then I can click into this one and fill with that tunic color. Okay, this is an option. Click into this one. New process workflow. Let's do this. Click into this one. This one is the boots. Including where the crow's feet are. Okay. Also the hat, I'm pretty sure. Though not the patch on it. Oh, right. And it's also this patch, though. Go over here. Let's grab the skin tone. Get in here with that. Fairly pale. Let's see. We already got the hand and such over there. Good. All the loose ends with that. Hair color is really dark. It's fun. Oh, I see a spot where I missed on skin tone. That's okay. We got the ear. Okay, we got this little cape. We've got belt and trim and such. No bag today, just the bread. Because it's way too late to be adding the bag at this point. What is happening with... Oh, right. Bing. Oh, hey, Galactic! Thanks for dropping by! Oh, perfect timing. We're running a bit long today anyway, so... Glad to see ya! How was your stream? Oops. Hope you had a good one. I'm trying to do Witchtober, so we're, seeing the fact that my process is still a little too slow for its own good, but we're getting there. Okay, we need this for here. I'm just getting the base values before we start adding shading and stuff. Oh, nice! Honestly, those are fun streams. The moments where you can just kind of reminisce. Let's see. Okay. I'm sorry I haven't had a chance to jump onto Sky. I made a list of all the stuff I committed to do in October, and I realized it was like 3 times as much as I'd normally do, and so I am just stinking, like, buried in stuff right now. No, it's all voluntary stuff and all optional stuff that I enjoy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not being like, ooh, heaven forbid, but like, it's a little silly. Oh, places stuck in time are always so fun. I was about to say, that reminds me of, but that's also reminiscing. But it does remind me of, oh right, no, Salt has stinking... It's not the tunic, maybe it is the tunic color. Salt absolutely 100% has pants. There we go. But it does make me reminisce about the end of the first D&D campaign I really played in. Well, the first, like, long-form one. I played in a much shorter one with the same group while we were still learning the ropes, and then, like, after, like, level 3, we'd all decided, you know what, now that I understand this, we all want to make our new characters again from scratch. Oops, but it was fun. But we ended up lost on an island in time. Oh, in November too? Okay, good. Good. Because October is just stinking crazy month for me. I'm trying to prep Halloween costume stuff, and like also Witchtober, which I've been looking forward to for ages, so I don't want to miss out on that. And also just like, it's some folks I know birthdays are right at the start of next month, so I need to prep for that. And it's like lots of little odds and ends. It's fun. It's a month I love, and it's been super fun getting into the spooky season. But it is so stinking busy. Whoops! I noticed a line which I should put on the line work layer. That's why the glasses looked off. There we go. Well, it's one of the reasons anyway. Yeah, the face is what it is, but it's okay. I want to put like a slightly lighter patch on this one's. Like just there. Oh, that shouldn't be on the line work layer. Dagnabbit. Be careful about that. Line work. Suppose I ought to. A little bit like that, and we can go slightly darker on the beak. Yes. Abandoned places and places stuck in time. Oh yeah, there's a hidden beauty to it, and the historian side of me just absolutely adores them too. Because they're always fascinating. Like one of my favorite ones, I've never been there, but like a real place that's one of those just time capsule of all the, I don't know, the goals and aspirations and also like tragic failures of some projects. But like it's all there, for better or for worse. I was thinking, is it Romania? I think it was Romania, like the old like center of state from like when the communists were still ruling the country. And it is this fascinating building that is so unique architecturally, and clearly like you could tell that they had their vision of the future, and it would probably have been terrible for the people there, but it was a future-y, like technology and driven vision, and it's fascinating, and it's so off the mark from actual reality in so many ways, but it makes you realize like, wow, that there was like a whole world and people dedicated a lot to trying to make that happen. And even if it didn't happen, there's still this monument to it that, you know, there's a place. Once again, I think it's probably a good thing it didn't happen. Lots, so many problems with like countries towards the end of communism. So much stuff was going wrong at that point, but... Whoa, that's not the color I wanted. What? How did I grab that? But it's fascinating. And it's still there. It's still like a ruin that people can explore. But history's cool like that. That's why I love those places. There is a beauty in them still. Okay. I think we're gonna stick to our like nice, mostly grayscale. I may nab the red accents. And then we'll try to have some fun with the actual shading, of course. Found the yearbook from his year. Wow. That's absolutely fascinating. Notice how quick some of that stuff changes too. Like stuff that feels like it's permanent and has been there forever and will be there forever. And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's gone next stinking week. Just like, wow. Yeah, I don't think the red is really drawing attention to the right places. At least not this red. I'm okay with it on the little, like, edges there. Be nice if I had it on the gem, too, which I can do. Wow. But yeah. No, I remember when I was a kid, learning about Pompeii was what did it for me. And seeing that city that was perfectly normal one day, and then next week, boom. And it's, like, preserved exactly as it was. Or, you know, not exactly, but pretty close to it. And, like, it was just a normal stinking city before that. We have plenty of records, like 20 years before the volcano incident, they had gotten a major citation because they were part of the local like sports league, basically. And their team had gotten into a slightly more aggressive brawl with the neighboring country, or neighboring city came over, so they were both Roman, and they're having their game, and then the Pompeians got a little rowdy about it, and it erupted into a fight, and like 20 people died, so it wasn't good. But we have all the records of like it going all the way to the Roman Senate, who tries to punt it to the emperor, who says, no, you have to rule on this, and eventually they got a 10-year ban from participating in sports. And you're just like, that's such a weirdly human thing. And like, they did their 10 years, and then the 10 years after that, the volcano happened. And you're like, wow. Like, there's the tragedy of it, certainly, and like the loss, but there's also just this sort of sense of like, wow, people have always been that way. People have always been like people. And like, had these aspirations and goals, and like, even if they didn't reach those goals, there's still monuments to their attempts, and there's something noble in just that alone. Or at least, if not noble, then interesting. But yeah. Do we add color, or do we focus on shadows? I think we add color. Because it's fun. Well, no. Maybe. Let's start with shadows and then add color if we have time. Yeah. Yeah, there's that sort of nostalgia or like sentimentality or something built into it. It's fascinating. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's a good way to do OCs, actually. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good thought. Maybe we don't do any color. But what we do is, let's get shadow. Clip it, not that it makes a huge difference. Pardon. But, I'm going to try to do something a little different with my shadows than I usually do. Not the flat marker, I don't think. Why is the... Okay, no, it's just a really faint. Well, there's something to that. Do you have any examples of, like, OCs linked to abandoned places? Because, like, that's not something I've done with mine. Mine tend to all be in fairly lively spots still. Sometimes too lively for the OC's own good, but, you know. There's got to be a way to rotate that, like, easily. Let's see. We'll allow that. Yep, sorry. No worries. Chat filter is just overly cautious, but you're good. And an industrial park. Ooh, dang. Yeah, motel is, like, an especially rough one. Like, just in terms of, like, rough around the edges settings. And, like, motels somehow manage to be, like, the grungiest place on Earth. And I don't know how it is. Because they aren't all that way. But, like, I feel like I could go to a city that was abandoned for 10 years and it would still be in better shape than the average motel. So it really does pack a punch more than almost anything else. Because I'm sure there was a heyday when those were all built and new and grand and exciting. Soft lead. Be slightly larger brush on. Interesting. What I really want is a texture of some sort, but I need to think it through a little more. Yeah, that makes some amount of sense. You got the whole gang there. A good spot for it. And it's like opposite ends of like the highest of highs to like not the lowest of lows, but not as good. There's a certain poetic pattern to it as well. Then I want to take this and see if we can... Oh, and a larger brush on it. Just to sort of try to get a sense. Now I also need to think through where the shadows are actually going to be. Ugh. May have to use a smaller brush for it, but that's okay. Gonna get quite the same effect. Tunic shadows. A lot in this area. Just like with the way it's folded in the pose. I'm not loving the effect of that brush. I need to mess with screen tones at some point a little more. And I know there's a way to do it. But that's definitely not a discover late thing. Oh, dang. Dang, Jason's been through a lot. That a succession crisis, or just brother really hated him? Aha. Yeah. Yeah, it's come a long way from just a crime lord. So bad at cross-hatching. Okay. We'd have to get a little more experimental with shadows on the next one. I think we've just kind of run out of time. What it does mean is that I can have some fun with my selection pen. Their father is another. Ah, okay. So yeah, that is going to lead to some competition, to say the least. That's not exactly what I needed. Okay. Okay, let's see. You know what? Let's just do it the normal way for now. Yeah, he's complicated things just by his presence at that point. But, on the other hand, means he might be able to help protect some of those folks, too. If he's interested, of course. Depends on how callous he is. Oh, I was thinking filled in. No wonder that one looked so wrong. There we go. That one was right. Nope. There we go. Let's continue like this, perhaps. There's a comment. So we're getting. Ah! Oh, well, that's gonna stinking complicate everything, isn't it? Now they've got all the attention. You got quite a story going there. You writing that down or just using it as inspiration for the, like, for the character art and such? Because you could probably do some writing with that. Yeah, I'm bad about making messy characters. All mine end up being like too sickly sweet saccharine because I'm just like, I want them to be happy. Not like, yes, that's good, but it's not good for writing. Oh, I ought to just thinking be doing 2 shades darker and then like filling in the gaps, shouldn't I? Yeah, okay, that'll be easier. Let's see. Ah, nice. Yeah, hey, nice work keeping up on OC-tober. That has been that's a doozy of a challenge in and of itself. It's been impressive watching you keep up with it. Okay. If I were a normal person in that town, I think I'd be moving out pretty quick. I'm like, okay. Werewolves are one thing, but getting the whole gang in town, let's skedaddle. Okay, so that's this color. Really ought to do fill in with this one and then clean up the edge. Oh yeah, I mean, stinking backstories are always like so much more complicated. It's a lot more to think through. Okay. Yeah, you think at that point you're like, yeah, I think my kids are going to be going to a different school. Can you imagine the poor principal trying to give a press conference after that? Like, don't worry, everything's fine. No need to panic. Ah. Well, the new principal, then. Presumably they didn't let the android keep the job. Let's see. One dark read. Okay. Trying to get these lines sorted out. Now I'm trying to imagine what would happen if they did let the android keep the job. Like, turned out, despite being terrible, they really were a good teacher. The students are like, we'd like Mr. Android back. Or Miss Android. Oh, dang. Oops. I'll get it off the bird tail in a second. Dang, 5th graders go. That is a tough challenge for 5th graders. On her 13th birthday. Ah, okay. I don't know, maybe she picked up a lot of, like, education certification on the way. Probably not. Yeah, I don't think I would trust her to run a school. Okay, not my best shading work, but we are getting some texture there. Just kind of messy texture. There's gonna be some areas that are gonna be like even. I need to get that. Ah, yeah. That's don't make a model of the kid. That's not going to solve the problems. That is going to make them worse. Like, I get it, but making the old android in the visage of the child thing always ends up being something of a monkey's paw, doesn't it? That is true. I mean, it's a great way to get stories like that. I'm not criticizing your writing, I'm criticizing the character's bad choices. I should make that clear. That'd be an interesting villain who, like, someone who intentionally sets up scenarios like that because they need writing prompts. Can't write my next big thriller until someone actually gets murdered. I will be cleaning this up in a second, but step one, getting it on here at all. Oh yeah, I mean that's how like I think stories always go. At least that's how I've always heard it goes. It's good when you let it build up and you get to sort of iterate and have ideas and stuff. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. The hat color. That's this one even. Okay, so we're going considerably darker for the shadows on this one then. Fine by me. Oh, that's good. That's fun. Always great when people get excited about it. And it's always fun to hear people's OC stories too, to be fair. Like, I always love hearing the background of characters. Learning how other people write and how they think. It's fun. Ah. Let's see. Oh. Not doing that. Okay. Alright, arm shading on. Oh, is that arm already in that level of shadow? Okay, perfect. Thank you! Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best way to do it. And, oh, I'm on the wrong layer. That's why. Trying to figure out the best way to do it where it brings the attention to the right places and it's not just kind of random. I may stick with just the bird one and like lose some of the red. We'll see. Oh, I'm doing that on the base. That's also super the wrong layer. Dag nabbit. Glad we caught it quick. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to use color a little more meaningfully. Oh, did I show you how Mikola turned out? We did finally finish that one that I've been working on stinking forever. Just in time for the eclipse. Oh, well, and to load the file, apparently. There we go. Turned out pretty dramatic, I would say. And definitely also getting the intense red-blue contrast going there. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, this one was fun. It turned out really not at all like I pictured at the start, but very dramatic. It did also take 53 hours. So I gotta work on that a little bit. But it did turn out really cool. I need to do more like really high contrast drawings like that. Yeah, it's fun every once in a while to really go all in on a piece and like try doing general sketches and keeping up day to day and practicing specific skills is what I like doing most of the time. But every once in a while you gotta really lean into it and see what you can actually do. And this turned out pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Super happy with how that one went. Okay, but back to... Actually, this doesn't look too bad either. And you're right, like, the red accent does add a little bit. Okay, yeah. What I may do, though, is, I may... Ah, no, I just scooched it off to the side over here. Oh dear, this is a new layout. I've not really messed with doing it like this before. I'm going to... I think the skin tone for that feels a little weird, but... I'm gonna give the bread a little bit of character. Just because it is kind of an important thing that ought to be noticed. Alright, let's get this more in the oranges and browns. I mean, brown is literally just dark orange, so, like, yeah. Bread! 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 You and the birds both. Oops, not the hand. Bread. Get that bread. Just since it's like an important little detail. Okay. So with that kind of in mind, I'm pretty good with that as it is to share. Like, there's definitely some stuff that I could do to make it pop a little more, which I may mess with, but I need to go to bed at some point, so like... Whoops, that was the wrong button. Why do I always think that's the clip button? I get they're both kind of pseudo-dotted squares, but like, dang-nab. I don't know why I do highlights on a separate layer from shadow at this point. I'm definitely not going to be, like, shading them with different colors and stuff. Yeah, that's true. The hat could be a good one to really make pop. It is a pretty definitive part of her character, too. That's one, so we can get, like, a little bit of, like, just a smaller, scratchier highlight going on it. Not both of them. Yeah, there we go. Grab this one a little bit here so we can do up. Yeah, it's great for storytelling. I just need to make sure I'm accenting the parts that are actually relevant to the story. My only concern. But I also need to realize that this is a daily drawing challenge, and giving 110% to all of these will burn me out, so I need to be a little careful. Whoops. Right, what's a highlight in one area is a shadow in others. Those little touches to try to make it pop in some spots. Tiny bit more. I'm just giving it a little bit of texture is really what I'm trying to do here. I'll do it with the hair too, actually. Yeah, just gotta make it like pop a bit. I wanted to experiment with some more like texture-y stuff, but I definitely don't have time to like be messing with new tools right now, so instead we'll just do with these as we can. I feel like, yeah, no, this ought to be something like that. Only just the tiniest bit darker. Tiniest bit lighter here. There we go. Okay, yeah, see that does some good things for that one. And I'm going to here for this one a little bit, and kind of do just a little bit of the same on the feather, just to get like a little glimmer. Make it pop that tiny little bit, you know? Okay. And then you know what? Ooh, okay. I wonder if that would be a good thing to color, possibly. That'd be kind of faint, but we could totally do the glasses. Then I'd have to, of course, grab a slightly darker one for that part. There we go. Okay, that's sort of... That's getting closer to, like, actually drawing attention to the face. I don't know if I want the same blue as the bird. Maybe, maybe not, but... And I could do the red to match back here, too, if we wanted. But just, like, a little something. This is going to make her look so ominous if I do it like this. Yeah, no, I think let's do the blue. And in fact, I may, even though it's not exactly her color, let's stick to like one color pop. We'll have the red, and then we'll have the blues. And like, I think I want to work it on there, but we could get like a little iridescent tail shimmer with it, perhaps, on some of the other birds. And then it's kind of coming together. Bit on you, a little bit on there, because these are always like shiny little birds. Just to tie them into it too a little bit, make sure that they're getting the... I don't think it quite works there, but make sure they're getting a little bit of the focus. Yeah, I was sort of aiming for crows on those, and then this one, I don't seem to know what it is. Mostly crowish too, but the wrong colors. I like crows, they're a lot of fun. Okay. So now that we've got that one, I'm going to go ahead and throw a little signature on it, and then there's just one more thing to do. Right, I need to actually do this on its own layer. Right, that's not my signature. There we go. Let's... over here. I need to practice this a little more. We'll work on it, but it's at least, you know, kind of readable. And it's in there. So, with that one done, export single layer PNG. I'm gonna make just a new folder for these entirely. Sword Timber 22 was the right choice, and this one is no different. October 2023. Let's dunk it there. Yep. And then I want to make a slight variant version in the, like, 10 or so minutes I've got left to stream. Let's see if I can make this happen. I'm gonna need a big brush for this one. And like a smaller brush to clean up those edges, because holy cow, that looks rough when it's big like that. I know what I should do. I shouldn't do this with this brush. I know the brush to use. We're using the real G pen. We're putting it on 50, or on 200. I like its edges a lot better. Yeah. Okay. Let's get the big one. That a tiny bit lighter so that we can make this part truly dark. We'll have a little fun with the giant bird. Oh, not that one. Go back to big brush with this one, and let's see what happens when you spend too long hanging out with the little birds. Don't pay too much attention to the parents. I'm gonna bring up my crow's foot ref again because they're very cool feet. Oh, raven talons and crow ones alike. It's funny, you look up crow's feet, you get raven talons an awful lot. Like, yeah, they're similar, but they're not quite the same. Okay, this'll do. Okay, we can close this. I don't want to save the changes to that. Okay. I'm going to use a slightly different brush for that one too. I gotta move this foot to a layer in front, but that's okay. Let's get our sharper brush. Still on a decent size. These talons. Yeah, slightly more decent size than that. There we go. Okay, and let's maybe go for like slightly larger, slightly better image on this. I don't know if we're actually going to do much better on that. The time that we've got, given that this is kind of the gag version. Now let's leave it as is. Because the other thing, I'm just going to call this layer Big Bird. It's probably not actual Big Bird. I don't think actual Big Bird would be as intimidating. I'm thinking I need like one big shadow layer that's just going to be kind of a shadow over top of almost everything. And we'll get a little lazy with it, because, you know, fine. Oh, and it shouldn't. Also, definitely the... Whoops, I've woken up the big bird. An oppressive shadow over top of everything. Yeah, Salt, I hope you got a lot more bread than this. Otherwise, you need to skedaddle. So I could probably just... Like, I don't want to just put everything in shadow, because it won't be super obvious, but, like... Bad choices may have been made today. The other thing that I can do, or at least try to do, is... This is one of the only times where I actually want displayed color. Small little brush. G-pen, small little brush. And let's go for, like... Do it over... You do it over the line work? Fine. Then let's just take a layer over the line work. Go for the tiny pupils. That's not even going to be visible on the full thing. There we go. That'll do. That'll be our fun little gag panel for panel 2. Big bird. Utterly silly, but, you know, fun. So, why not? Whoops, okay, no, that's too much. Put this one, and I can also have the looming shadow on that too. There we go. Like, if you saw my old Sword-Tember swords from last year, there was not a single one of them that would actually work as a sword. They were all nonsense joke weapons, and I love them all dearly. So if I don't have at least a bit of fun with these, then I'm doing it wrong. Yes, I do want to replace that one, because this one has better shadow. Okay, but with that, I am almost an hour over my normal stream wrap-up time, and it is very much time for me to go so I can get stuff uploaded and all that jazz. But I hope you've had a good time. Hope everyone, whenever they may be, I don't know if anyone else is in chat or not, but just in case any of those aren't bots, I hope morning, afternoon, evening, or night, whenever you may happen to be, that you're having a good one. And I will see y'all on the flip side. It was good to see you, Galactic. Thanks for hanging out.